So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio, and today is Wednesday, August the 30th, 2023, and our calling number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. We'll give Michael a moment to dial in, and I'll just say we're working on changing some things on the homegrown garden. We had talked a lot about that yesterday and about the location of the earth and different things and what you can do to change the environment to increase pollinators. And we've added pictures of our progress as we've gone through. And so we're putting all of that out on the website so that you can look at it and enjoy it. And if you have any questions, if you want to help starting one of your own, let us know. And I see Susan's hand up. I don't know if this is left over from Dr. Tim or not, so I'll turn on your microphone. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Jeanie. Yeah, it was turned.
How are you?
Left over. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good. I am good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for your offer to buy that little creche that I showed on there. They are really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. If it's still available, yes, I definitely love it. You know, what we're talking about is Susan and them have a sale, and it's donations for the items, and one of the items that they showed was the characters in the manger scene, you know, Joseph, Mary, Jesus, and Aria loves the manger scene. In fact, the other day we were down in the den, and where I had the manger scene set up at Christmas, for some reason it just clicked, and she goes, "Where is the family?" And I said, well, we packed them up with the Christmas decorations. I said, we'll be getting them back out again. But she absolutely loves it. She would rearrange them. She would, you know, move one character to a different place, and so it was funny. She really likes it. But she does always ask, why do you leave Jesus as a baby? Because he did grow up.
Well, this one has
she loves
the baby for sure.
Yeah, I know, but it's wood. It's beautiful, and
it is beautiful. I said it was hand carved, and I trust it is. It doesn't look as if it's machine made at all, but I don't know for sure. Now that I've said
fine. It's absolutely beautiful, though.
It is beautiful. I emailed the church secretary today and said, go down there, because there are volunteers going through all the time, and they're allowed to take, if they want something, they can buy it right then and there. So I said, if you can snag that and put it aside, and she said she would look. She hasn't let me know whether I imagine it's still there. I've had one other person ask me for something too that's for sale there. It's really quite wonderful to have it be not for, I mean, the church and the refugee center definitely need money, but to have it be basically take it if you need it and give us a donation if you can. It's so nice in this day and age now where people can't afford things. They're struggling, so
exactly.
Anyway.
I'm glad you're doing good. And Michael has joined us. Welcome, Michael. I can't hear you talking. You're muted.
I know. You want me to unmute. Okay. I'll do it just for you. Welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here. Did I hear Susan's voice there?
Yep, you did.
Oh, cool. How are you, young lady?
I'm a leftover. I'm okay, thank you. I'm a leftover from Dr. Tim's question.
Okay. Well, we love
Jeanie and I were
leftovers
talking about that little creche, that little set of creche family figures that we're giving away or selling at our yard sale. I won't charge you an arm and a leg, Jeanie. You can send whatever you want, or if you want me to name a price, I will. Sometimes it makes it easier.
Either way, and let me know what it would cost to box it up and ship it to me too, and I'll include that in the donation as well.
Name it and we'll claim it.
That's pretty nice.
So you just tell us what to send, young lady,
Okay.
and include the shipping,
Very nice.
of course.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, anything else on your mind from your leftover state of existence for today?
Not at the moment. Thanks.
Okay. Cool. Well, have a blessed one.
Thanks.
All right. So, Miss Jeanie, do we have any questions in the chat room? Anything happening in the
The only question that I had gotten was someone using the Avicen, and they said that they felt like when they used it that all this stuff was coming up and everything, and I explained to them about a healing crisis, but you might want to add something to that. They were almost to the point of, I'm not going to use this thing because it brings stuff up.
Okay. All right. Well, that's definitely a typical response for people who pick up worksheets or the Avicen or anything to do with healing, because, of course, it can't come up if it's not there. If it's in there, if it's an energy that is of a disintegrative nature. Remember, in the Aramaic language, the word sin is an archery term. When you fire at the target and you miss the target, the scorekeeper yells, sin, you're off the mark. That's all the word means. If I put an energy that's off the mark into my structure, there are many mechanisms I can use to hide it from myself. I can hold my breath. I can project it into my brain's image of everybody else and blame everybody else. There's the essence of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Is that when people have things inside of them that they refuse to deal with, they repeatedly have to face those things. And basically, all of the mechanisms of the culture that help us to keep from facing things are causes of disease. Like, for instance, if you don't like feeling this emotion or that, or you're upset, or, you know, your anxiety, you can go take a pill and, my goodness, how cool is that? My anxiety went away until you stop taking the pill. And then what happens? Well, the pill didn't do anything to get rid of it. And if you want to be free of it, you're going to have to either take the pill for life, or at least, pardon me, appear to be free of it. You're going to have to take the pill for life and deal with the side effects of it. And every drug is a disease disguised as a cure. So you can rest assured there'll be several more sets of symptoms and several more drugs to come along. And then those drugs, and you keep, let's say, for instance, you eat food like food is a drug. You know, junk food, sugar, caffeine, starches, food cooked to death. You can keep eating that and weaken yourself sufficiently that you can keep things held down and hidden from yourself. When things start to move, you know, we have a saying in this culture that it drove him to drink. What drove him to drink? Something inside of him that he didn't want to feel and he didn't want to deal with. As soon as it would start to come up, out came the scotch. It drove him to drink. And, you know, on and on and on. You know, the garbage food of the culture, the hostility, the busyness. You know, we did a workshop in a prison, actually a super high security prison in Ionia, Michigan, back a few years ago. And there was a teacher there who carried on in the prison and did an 8-week support group series. Actually, Michelle was part of it that was on the show yesterday. She helped to carry on that process. And then they taught a Laws of Living course. And there was a ticket price to get into Laws of Living. And the price was that people had to turn in 5 worksheets a day over the period of the 8-week support group before they could get into the class. That was kind of like their admission. What was found, you know, Laws of Living was originally designed for the prison system, and what they found was that if people didn't pay for it, they didn't do the work, they didn't get involved, and it didn't do them any good. So there's always been a tradition that someone, like when we had a pretrial release program in Georgia, there was always a fee involved. If the person was in prison, they had to pay for that class. And if they didn't do it, they didn't get anything out of it. So that's been a tradition. Well, in this super high security prison in Ionia, people are in there from 25 years to life. and they are locked in their cells 23 out of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless they have, unless they're on the slave list where they get, 50 cents an hour to go work in the commissary or what have you. Did you know that the only place in America where slavery is legal is in prisons? Yes, it was never abolished from prisons in America. Unfortunately, slavery has not been abolished in America, but that's another story. So if they, maybe have a job in the commissary or what have you, they might get out for a couple hours, a couple of days a week or whatever, but otherwise they're locked in their cells. They get an hour to go exercise, but otherwise 23 hours in their cells. Every person who registered for that class, when it came the day to turn in the worksheets, had exactly the same excuse. They were all too busy. 23 hours a day locked in a cell by yourself, and I was too busy to do that work. Why? Because nobody wants to feel and nobody wants to deal with that stuff that's in there. Everybody wants to be rid of it. Nobody wants the diseases that come with it, but nobody wants to feel it and deal with it. Well, here's the trick. Anything that weakens you, again, busyness, you run, you keep yourself under stress, that keeps your energy field shut down. Junk food, alcohol, drugs, hatred, rage, vengeance, violence, all sorts of things keep people from feeling what's going on inside of them. Anything that vitalizes someone means that they're going to start to have, quote unquote, as you said, stuff come up. They're going to have to deal with what they've been hiding from themselves. If you don't deal with it, I guarantee you it's the stuff that's going to kill you ultimately. And so the idea is, and there's a whole section on the website, and I'm sure Jeanie's probably already put it in the notes, or will as I mention it. She just does that sort of thing. There's a whole section on the website on healing crisis. What does a healing crisis looks like? When I hit a new level of vitality, imagine that we've got a vitality meter. It goes from 1 to 10, and I'm at a level 5 vitality, and I have a level 7 toxin in me. Now, let's say I might, experience around the edges of my life that toxin. Maybe it's rage and fear and sadness. And I say, boy, I sure would love to get rid of this rage and fear and sadness from my life. I sure would love to get rid of this rage and fear and sadness from my life. But if I go and eat a meal of sprouts and fresh raw food, and I'm vitalized, all of a sudden, my fear and rage and sadness is going to start to move and be in my face. It's going to start to come up because I've been vitalized. The whole body of work that we've got here is an invitation for people to stop doing things that devitalize them, that drug them, and allow them to keep their trauma experiences hidden so they can come up. That is what the whole purpose of this work is so that they can come up. One of the things that the Avacyn does, one of the other ways that people shut themselves down is by restricting, by living in a world of uptight. Think about being uptight. And what happens? Muscle fibers are locked up. Locked up muscle fibers restrict blood flow. Restriction of blood flow inhibits the delivery of oxygen, nutrition, enzymes, hormones to cells, and inhibits the removal of wastes from those cells. And so that's how a lot of people live in order not to feel uptight. And I'll own, actually you've heard Patrick McGann on the phone. He was my first massage therapist back, 50 years ago. I met him in Atlanta, and I had been in the business world. I had 3 businesses. I had 60 employees. I had a Mark III on one side of my driveway. I had an Alvarado on the other. I had a penthouse apartment in one city and homes in 2 other cities. And I worked 19 hours a day, 12 days a week. That's the kind of lifestyle I was in. And when Patrick first put his hands on me, he was like, he would almost literally cry because his hands hurt trying to break through the stiffness, the tightness, the lockup that I had in my body. And I'm still working out aspects of that 50 years later, yes. when you realize that you're dealing with generational patterns, they don't all go because I say, oh, I would like them all to go. There's work to be done. So what the avicen does is those places that are tight and locked up, one of the first things it does is it heats the blood, and warm blood flowing over muscle fibers causes them to relax. Depending on whose numbers you take, we have somewhere between 60 and 80 billion capillaries. Capillaries are the only way that oxygen gets to a cell, the only way that nutrition, the only way that enzymes, the only way that minerals, the only way that hormones get to a cell. They have to be delivered through that blood vessel, and that blood vessel is, anywhere from 1/10 to 100th the thickness of a hair. That's how those nutrients and such, oxygen, get into the cell, and how wastes are removed from the cell. Well, at the head of each of those 60 to 80 billion capillaries, there's a set of muscle fibers. When those muscle fibers all tighten up, it's called sympathetic dominance. It comes from stress, it comes from fear, it comes from fright. And what happens is it restricts blood flow, and it does that for a very good reason, because in the jungle, if you were under that kind of fear or stress mode, there was something chasing you, and you wanted to be able to run or fight. And so a lot of the delivery system of blood throughout the body shut down. Like, if a bear is chasing you, you don't need to do a calculus problem. So you don't need the higher centers of your brain, not required. So the blood flow to there is removed. You don't need to, if you're a woman, ovulate, or if you're a man, produce sperm. Those functions are shut down. Blood flow is cut off. You don't need to have a bowel movement. Blood flow to most of the colon is shut off in that fear state. You don't need to generate red blood cells. The spleen is cut off from blood flow. You're not going to need to take a nap. The ability to rest is gone. You're not going to have to digest food. The blood flow is removed from all of those functions. They're called parasympathetic activities. And the blood flow is shunted to sympathetic activities. That is, when the sympathetic dominance strikes, the blood flow is shunted to the large muscles, legs and arms and lungs to take in more oxygen. And it's how we survive. However, we're not designed for survival, but most people, because of their fear, their anxiety, their rage, and the stress they live under, stand or live in that sympathetic dominant state. One of the things it does is it covers up pain. So what the avicen does is one of the first functions that it fulfills, as it starts to warm the blood flow through the palm of the hand. There's a heat exchange in the palm of your hand. It's called an arteriovenous anastomosis. Fancy word for it's a literal radiator and absorber of heat. If you're cold, what do automatically? You rub your hands together. What happens when you rub your hands together? You create friction. Friction creates heat. The heat is absorbed through the heat absorber, and literally your whole body is warmed. Notice if you become overstressed or overheated, what happens? Your palms sweat. What's going on? That arteriovenous anastomosis is pushing heat out of the body. So when one lives in a sympathetic dominant state and things are shut down and restricted, heat poured over those muscles, creating the restriction of blood flow, causes the muscle fibers to let go and relax, and opens blood flow. If there's stress, trauma, pain, things that are going to come up hidden in your cells, what's going to happen when you hit that new level of vitality? Remember our level 5 vitality? Gee, I want to get rid of that fear and that anger and that pain. I don't want to feel it, but I want to get rid of it. I'm at a level 5 vitality. If that toxin is a level 7 that I want to get rid of, if it were to break loose and I'm only at a level 5 vitality, it could literally kill me physically. So it's not going to let loose. As I start to do things that strengthen, that build my vitality. And that's one of the things that the avicin does. It creates blood flow, oxygen delivery, and increases vitality. Anything that does that will cause things to, quote unquote, come up. So if you've got a quantity, let's say you've got a tea kettle full of toxins in your body, do you want them to exit your body? Whether they're physical, mental, emotional, chemical, whatever they are, do you want them to exit? Then guess what? You're going to have to deal with it exiting. So the person who keys in and starts to do their work, they're at level 5 and they go to, and their toxicity is a level 7. They do their work, they change their dietary regimen, they're engaging in forgiveness, they're focusing on cultivating their relationship with love, they put their hand in the avicin, all of those things, gee, they're now at a level 6 vitality. I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't felt this good in a long time. Keep going, keep improving the dietary regimen, you're doing forgiveness work, you're taking the load off, you're increasing vitality, and you get to a level 7 vitality. And you're like, wow, this is so cool. I haven't felt this good in years. And then you eat that next sprout salad, or you do that next worksheet, and you get to a level 7.5 vitality, and you are just rocking, and it's exciting. And you go to bed just so excited, man, I'm on top of the world. And in the morning, you get up and you wonder if anybody got the number of the Mack truck that went through your room during the night, because you're lower than a snake's belly. What happened? All of that level 7 toxicity broke loose, finally. Now your structure, instead of having to be carried around, and carrying around toxicity like that, I would offer, is the cause of all degenerative disease. When you start dumping that tea kettle, guess what? It's not Dr. Feelgood. You're not going to like it. Nobody likes it. However, if you've got the understanding, if you hang around long enough to build the brain cells and understand the process, then you step into willingness to embrace those things. You step into a state where it becomes exciting to allow yourself to feel what perhaps hasn't been felt for decades, even if it's not Dr. Feelgood. And as you continue with every habit that increases your vitality, including the avicin, blood flow improves, digestion improves, you move from sympathetic dominance to parasympathetic state. That means the rest centers kick in, digestion kicks in, regeneration kicks in. Improved generation of blood cells kick in. Elimination is increased. And everything moves in the right direction. So my offering would be, you might want to entertain shifting into willingness and say thank you to whoever or whatever brings up what you've been hiding from yourself, because it's only when it comes up that you've got an opportunity to throw it out. As long as it's in hiding, you'll never get rid of it. It is desirable to step into that state. And that state is the state of willingness. I'm willing, notice it's built right into the worksheet. I'm willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. What are they? On a physical level, healing looks like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had and low energy. On a mental level, healing looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had and confusion. On an emotional level, healing looks like any kind of negative feeling you've ever had and depression. Think again of your system being an energy system. What goes into the system that creates symptoms and you drug yourself over is shut down and suppressed somewhere in the system. You dissociate from it, and now wherever that's stored, because the body is the mind, and every cell in the body functions to store information, wherever it's stored, there's going to be the beginning of disease processes and degeneration there. Step into a state of willingness where, okay, I'm willing to be guided to do whatever it takes to vitalize, to strengthen, to move through these things, to get out of this sympathetic dominant state into a parasympathetic state where rest, digestion, elimination, reproduction all happen easily and comfortably and in a healthy way. That's what we're heading for. And that's the reason to use every tool, whether it's a worksheet, the commitment, or the avison. They're all the same. They're all there to take us into the next level of vitality, which means they're there to support you in throwing off the next set of symptoms that need to be dealt with in your life. And actually, my avison just heated up, and I'm just pushed the button to start it up and get my hand in it. I got involved in that conversation and forgot to do it when I started the show.
We have a hand
so, Miss
up.
Jeanie, there's my thought. Oh, great. Let's say hello.
All right, 864. That's Mr. Joe. Welcome.
Hey, what's
Hey, welcome,
happening?
sir. How do you be?
Just absolutely going to the airport, pick up my sister. So.
Oh, that's sweet. All right. The sister that I know?
No, this the oldest, Ann. She's coming in from Delray Beach, Florida. Yeah, my dad's turning 90. September 5th, we're having a little soiree on Saturday.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad she was able to get a plane because there were a lot of canceled flights in Florida this weekend, or this last day or two.
Yeah, Delray's. Yeah, we were concerned, but everything looks good. She's on her way. A plane's actually arriving earlier than anticipated. So, but I wanted. The reason I called was, the reason I called was all the stuff you just said is just so.
Right.
This just the nature of the avison worksheets, and going through the, I don't know, what do you want to call it? You're going through the turnstile, maybe, bumping into the turnstile and realizing that, hey, wait a second, I have a path here. I can work through this. And then, going through the turnstile as you look at the pain or the, I just left Susan, my girlfriend, I just left her at her place because I'm going to go pick up Ann at the airport, and then Ann and I are going to go back to my place. And it just didn't make any sense to have the three of us in one car. So it didn't make sense for Susan. Susan might come and visit later on to my place, but most likely not. Now, the reason I tell you that is because, okay, whatever works, I'll talk to you later. As I'm going out the door, and this is yours truly, okay? I'm going out the door. I'm going to get in my car as I'm driving down Route 85.
Let me guess.
To the airport.
Let me guess.
Huh?
Let me guess.
Oh,
Did
yeah,
you get an opportunity to learn forgiveness? It's a miracle.
We got a winner, Johnny. Winner. What do we have for prizes there, G? That's it.
Work in the garden.
It's just, I start in with the, what's her ulterior motives? What is she doing? Why didn't she come with me? It's just like, oh my gosh.
The monkey mind kicking in, eh?
Yeah. Oh, the monkey mind is just, it's so appealing to recognize it, and I wind up talking to myself because I'm my favorite person, as you know, and you just say to yourself, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you going?
I tell you what I'm going to do. There's one of the new sections, with our. Excuse me, I thought you were complete. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one of the, in the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing Club, each month we come out with a new set of 13 Mind Shifters. So it's the ever-expanding Mind Shifters list. And one of the recent ones was, and I'll send you that whole list, this particular section. It's called Overcoming a Beguiling Ego. So we've got 13 specific Mind Shifters for that. Just for you, Joe. I'll text them
Stop
to you.
it. Don't tease me, Ryce. I'll come out there.
Honest to God, I've got it. I've got a whole set just for you.
No, again.
Pick a number 1 to 13.
Go ahead. Pick a number from 1 to 13. Go ahead.
Listen, it's like a game show. Number 10, please.
Okay, just a second. Let me get it open.
Number
here.
10? She ready? Yeah.
Unless you've got it open, Jeanie.
I don't, but I can open it real quick.
I've got it. It's just opening now. Yep. Okay, overcoming a beguiling ego. I think that's section 15. Let me look. And partnering in, let's see, partnering in sweetness, approval, and love, healing issues in my tissues, healing blame, healing regulatory speech, being on purpose, 15. Section 15 is healing issues around people dying. 16, living as love. Here we are. Overcoming, it's section 17, overcoming a beguiling ego. And so yours is number 10. So here's your mind shifter.
Thank you.
If my mind is preoccupied with negativity, so this is 1710. If my mind is preoccupied with negativity, it is time for me to choose kindness and generosity.
Wow. Wow. Great. That's there's no question on that one. Do they come in like a 6-pack, or is there any kind of like,
no, a 13 pack. Yeah, you want me to read all 13 of them to you?
I'd like the baker's dozen.
You want
kindness?
Okay.
Kindness
we've got a
doesn't come with
baker's dozen.
pill. Yeah.
So number 1 in section 17 in the ever-expanding mind shifters list, number 1, overcoming a beguiling ego, is I easily make time to cultivate in my mind and body the habit of functioning out of love. No matter the apparent reward of lower path behavior, it will always be easier and more profitable for me to opt for actions based on love. Functioning out of my true mind always results in me taking the highest and best action. I always listen to the guidance that strengthens behaviors based in love, generosity, and right action. Nice. When tempted to lash out, I remember that my physiology gets the original. Next one, living in true joy is not dependent on getting what I want. I'm always conscious of and cancel goals that prompt my mind to construct pained realities. Number 9, breathing consciously and tapping into love will heal the parts of me that lashes out at others. 10, if my mind is preoccupied with negativity, it's time for me to choose kindness and generosity. That was the one you chose. Number 11, selecting behaviors based in love means I always win, even if my mind says I will lose. 12, perception is nothing more than a replicated construct from the past. Listening for and following guidance will always result in a higher outcome. And then finally, the last mind shifter in that section on overcoming a beguiling ego is a pained mind or body is always giving me the message that I need to do my work instead of listening to its fear and or hostility.
Sweet.
So which one of those fits? Everyone? Oh, that's what it's for. Overcoming a beguiling ego. That's it.
Thank you. And also, don't forget the Avicen. All the things that you said about how it's helping with different aspects of my physiology. It's just the aspect of putting my hand into the device and putting everything down and just being quiet and, wait whatever it is, 15, 20, 30 minutes, both hands. It's just, it's a noticeable change, and the aspect of vitality increasing, and, always, what's great is it always seems to lead to better understanding and more peaceful results. For example, like I said, I leave my significant other, I walk away from her, and my monkey mind jumps in with the nonsense, but I attribute my ability or my willingness to say, wait a second, look at what you're doing, look at it, it's painful, you don't know, you're getting the original, you don't want that, forgive it, collapse the reality of it, move on. It works, let's put it that way.
Yeah, being vitalized is an important part of being able to do that, because if one is in a lower state of vitality, the monkey mind can run the show so easily.
Oh, the other thing that I find fascinating is to witness other people and to just hold a space, because I don't know, I'm guessing, but it just seems that sometimes you look at someone and you're like, oh my gosh, it's your monkey. It's the monkey. It's not you. You're lashing out, or you're some other type of anger or whatever, however you want to put it. And it's just, you're busy, or you're trying to get something done. Okay, I get it, So, but it's just that recognition and loving kindness to consider the fact that, hey, this, who knows what's going on for that person. So anyway, it's really wonderful. And like I said, the Avicen, can't say enough about that in terms of different.
Yeah, it's an awesome tool, isn't it?
Healing. I had my left shoulder. I would say that it's as healed as it's probably going to get, and that is, I really don't. I couldn't sleep on my left side. Now I don't even think about it anymore.
Awesome.
And yeah, and I'm back doing some weightlifting and cardio, and it's no worries. But it is.
That's fabulous.
Just like the worksheets. It's just like the worksheets. I mean, you got to do the work, unfortunately, and that's why I always ask you, and at some point I wish you'd come with some kind of pill form of kindness and, some
there
type of Baker's dozen.
I'll work on that.
Oh, no.
I'll tell you, here's what I'll do. I'll print off these mind shifters, and I'll cut them out individually, and I'll roll them up, and I'll put them in a double-up clear capsule, and then you can just take them there.
Nice.
Well,
who knows? That might work. Yeah, that might work.
You're talking about your
waiting.
shoulder. There's a lady who, and I'm trying to think whether you would have met her at one of the intensives or not. She was in her later 70s. Probably should be private on in terms of name on the show, but
right,
probably in her later 70s, and she had polio as a kid, and she had post-polio syndrome, and she had 4 joint replacements because of pained joints, and her shoulder was so excruciatingly painful that she couldn't lift a glass of water. And
is that Joan?
She went to the doctors.
Talking about Joan? Yeah.
No.
What was her name? No.
She went to the doctors, and they did x-rays and said, oh, it's bone, that shoulder is bone on bone, there's nothing we can do, but we're going to have to do another joint replacement. About the time that happened, she got the Avicen, and 2 months later, she was moving. 2 months later, everything that the movers didn't move, she packed up, put in boxes, loaded in her car with the shoulder that she couldn't pick up a glass of water, unloaded, unpacked her car in her new home. It's amazing the difference it can make. It's pretty cool.
It is very cool. It's part of my routine. I mean, I'll wake up and within a half hour, I've got my hand in there, get both sides, whether it's, like I said, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, do both hands, and then I'm on my way for the rest of the day. And it's well worth it, as well as, you know, the worksheets and all the other things that you and Jeanie have created are fabulous. But I get such a kick out of recognizing, and you mentioned it too when you were talking earlier about how, you know, the vitality, recognize the vitality, but the vitality is not necessarily going to take you into happy land. You know, it may lead you to more or some other work that, hey, what about this, or what about that? And then the swiftness with which I can utilize the tools and forgiveness, collapse the construct that I have, recognize that, let it go. It's fantastic. So thank you.
Sweet. Well, glad you're on the track doing your work. You know, the Course in Miracles says that, you know, people who do the work, that millions yet unborn will benefit from what they do. And so glad you're on the team doing it and passing it on, and rock and roll.
Talk to you guys later.
All right, my friend. You have a blessed one.
Love you. Love you. You too.
All right.
Bye.
Appreciate it. All right. Bye. Sweet. Awesome. So, Miss Jeanie, any thoughts for you?
I thought of something while Joe was talking, but it's left my mind at this moment. And we don't have any hands up, and there's no comments in the chat room. There was, I had sent links this morning to someone that I had been working with on sending love. That, I think that's what I was thinking of when Joe was talking about looking at somebody and just holding the space. And that was really cute,
right.
Saying to yourself, oh, that's just their monkey. That's not them. But there's actually a study, and it goes along with our love exchange that we have. And I can put the links to the love exchange explanation in the notes, as well as these. But they call them eye gazing. And there were different exercises done in London and different places. One of them was Amnesty International that was doing the experiment between people from different countries. And basically people just sitting in front of a total stranger and having eye contact with them for, I don't remember what it was, 3 minutes or something like that. And people, you know, they, at the end of it, they would hug, they would cry, that, you know, just all kinds of things. And it was a total stranger, and all it was sharing love through their eyes. And so I thought of that when Joe said, you know, he would look at somebody and put in judgment on them, just recognize, oh, that's just their monkey, that's not them. But I'll put the link to that on the website in the notes for today too.
Well, it's interesting, you know, back years ago, actually before I met you, sweetie, I spent a lot of time going to different conferences, you know, at Madison Square Gardens and the Cavett Center, you know, all over the country. And there was one series of workshops, and I had not heard of this before. This goes back, 25, maybe longer, years ago. And there was one guy, and he was charging, you know, there would be different conference participants that would do different presentations, and this guy was selling tickets to come into his room, and he would stand in the front of the room. He wouldn't say anything. He would just gaze at the audience, and that's what they called it, gazing. And he got $25 a ticket to have you come into the room and just sit there and have him gaze at you. And, you know, here we go. We can do a love exchange with anybody, anytime, for free. How cool is that? And you know what? They don't even need to be in the room with you. They don't even need to be in the city with you. They don't even need to be on the planet with you to do that love exchange. And the beauty of it is when you do it, you get the original. They just get a carbon copy. So pass it on. And it looks like we've got about 15 minutes left. So anybody out there that has a thought for us, something to share, a question, something you'd like some support with, tell me about what's happening in your world.
And if you're on another station where we can't see you, 563-999-3581 and press 1. And that'll raise a hand. We'll know you want to talk to us. If you're in the chat room, and a hand just went up. If you're in the chat room, you can actually type a question. If you're signed in, you can type a question in the chat room, and I'll read it out to Michael. And the hand that went up is Doug, 314. Welcome.
Oh, well, welcome, young man. Thanks for coming back to play. Haven't seen you in a while.
Good afternoon to you both. Yeah. A couple of things. I mean, I really enjoyed. I don't remember you. I remember you hearing. It didn't hit me before about the love exchange with people who aren't here, who aren't even on the planet. That sounds like a very powerful idea to me. I remember that we did some of those love exchange exercises at different times, but that has a whole new dimension. You said earlier in the show, I mean, there's a lot of things I could talk about, but you said earlier in the show that, let's see, you said that if in lower vitality, the monkey mind can run the show. And I was like, just curious about that, if you could expand on that concept, because it doesn't immediately fill in for me what that means exactly, how the lower mind, or being in lower vitality, is just more likely to create more monkey mind. I presume that's what you're saying there?
Lower vitality is monkey mind. Remember that your cellular structure is a device. You know, all of the trillions of cells in your body are designed to function based in love. Different frequency has taken over a cell. Let's say it's suppressed hatred or fear or sadness or grief or loss or trauma. Then when those energetic patterns are moving on a cellular level, by definition, that is the monkey mind. And so the deeper one goes into that pain and trauma mind, the more difficult it is to climb out. And so, you know, moving into the habit, yesterday, you know, I talked about the book that somebody wrote, the title that I had to do some worksheets on envy around. The title of the book was, You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. And if you're going to actually heal, every time you find your mind engaging in a thought disorder that is a thought that's powered by something other than love, better change it. And if a whole mass of those things are moving, you know, the person who is, you know, can hardly get out of bed because of depression, it's because their cellular structure is running on thought disorders, running literally on the chemistry of the mind energy of some form of hostility or fear. And so the lower one gets into the inertia-bound pattern of negative thinking, the easier it is for the replicant mind, the monkey mind, to just keep doing its thing. Does that make sense? When you start to, and you take time to consciously, purposely connect your mind and therefore your cellular structure to active present love, if one of those things, you know, something comes along and resonates that, you know, I know I've had lots of people over the years who are like, yeah, well, now that I've got these words, now that I know how to forgive, now that I know that I need to breathe, gee, I can see things that years ago someone would come along and say something and I'd be in a funk for days or weeks. And now, well, yeah, that funk still comes up to a degree, but, you know, it's 2 minutes and I'm out of it. I'm done with it and I've cleaned up another layer of it. To me, that's the benefit of having the tools and the awareness. And, of course, using them.
Right, and you're saying that just like when I first heard that, I was thinking of vitality as health and aliveness and all of that. I mean, they go together, of course. I mean, thoughts that are off the mark bring your energy down and your vitality down. And you're saying that the very act of not being being out of proper thought, out of being in states of is lower vitality. So monkey mind and lower vitality are essentially synonymous.
They're different. They're different aspects of the same coin.
Okay.
And you can't have one without the other, and you can't separate one from the other. You know, if I've got a coin, I've got a silver dollar here, and on one side of it, people look at it and they say, what do you see? There's George Washington. On the other side, what do you see? I see an eagle. Okay, so I want you to take the head off of the coin. You can't do it.
No.
At what point do you only have the tail left of the coin? At what point do you only have physiology left, or at what point do you only have mind left? You can't have one without the other. That's why the cleaning up and the correcting of the mind is so important. I was listening to a gentleman who was presenting at in the country of Bhutan. Interesting, in Bhutan, one of the assets that they consider to be a national asset, a way they measure wealth in Bhutan, is by the level of national happiness of people.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this scholar presenting, this historian presenting, and he was talking about how people who get locked into historical stories get lost in those stories and literally lose their human lives to it, literally take lives and lose their own lives just because they told a story. Just because somebody had a story that they locked into and, you know, they were ready to go for. He spoke about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And he said, you know, nobody's concerned about the rocks and the stones and the land, but what they're concerned about, what they're warring over is each of them has a story that my claim is more important than yours. And the unwillingness to let go of that destructive thinking. And at one point, the moderator of the discussion asked him, you know, he was talking about the direction that the world is going in terms of conflict and war. And, you know, this high-level scholar who speaks at the UN and all over the world, and he says to them, you know, well, what do we do? Where is our hope? He said, our only hope is for people to clean up their own minds.
And of course, they have to recognize first that that's the problem, which is, like I'm thinking of the.
Well, big thing that
so
keeps people from recognizing that's the problem is they've got a story about how it's somebody else's problem. See, I'm only this way because of you, you see. That's one of the biggest insane stories on the planet. In fact, there's a whole religion, the one world universal religion of blame. You know, my mind's only in negativity because of what you did. Well, that, 5 years ago it was Harry. Yes, that's true. Well, yeah, I know we were friends, but 10 years ago it was Bill. You're right. But, you know, now it's you. It's just like people are stuck in their story. Actually, the original music director at Heartland way back 30-some years ago wrote a song while he was there called Stuck in My Story, My Pain and My Glory. The melody lines of the song.
Right.
Can I read something?
Please do, sweetie.
I was actually looking up how to spell Bhutan. And
right.
I came across, this is actually an article in the National Library of Medicine. It's a PubMed bulletin,
right.
The World Health Organization. And it says, Bhutan was the first country in the world to pursue happiness policy. The Bhutanese concept of happiness is deeper than the common meaning of happiness in industrialized countries. The philosophy of gross national happiness has several dimensions. It's holistic, recognizing people's spiritual, material, physical, or social needs. It emphasizes balanced progress. It views happiness as a collective phenomenon. It is both ecologically sustainable, pursuing well-being for both current and future generations, and equitable, achieving a fair and reasonable distribution of well-being among people. Since the early 1970s, Bhutan has promoted population well-being over material development. Happiness, health, and well-being are closely related. Good health is often considered the single most important determinant, I'm not pronouncing it, of well-being. Conversely, adverse health changes have lasting and negative effects on well-being. And it goes on, but that first paragraph I think is powerful. It says just what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you'd send me a copy of that article, that'd be cool. But yeah, it's like it should be national policy everywhere, international policy.
I just see the blindness of exactly what I guess you're saying in my mind is how people are always blaming somebody else as evil and the problem. You know, constantly it's the rest.
I can't be happy because of what you're doing.
Right.
And the reverse is true. If I choose to have joy, actually slightly different than happiness, joy is the more, I would say, the more valuable asset. If I choose to have joy and I bring it to the person who I was blaming yesterday, I may just bring transformation to the person I was blaming yesterday and healing. But, you know, I mean, literally, by the time people are 4 in this culture, we are virtually all card-carrying members of the one world universal religion of blame. It is the most prevalent religion on the planet.
Yeah.
And how many religions are really tapped into their own religion and practicing it and letting others do the same? Oh no, your religion's bad, mine good. I have to kill you or get rid of yours so that mine can rule. It's all ego. It's all just silly, you know, the prejudices, you know. Oh, these kind of people aren't good. They're not part of ours. Or, I mean, on and on and on go the stories that people are stuck in. And it's time to stop glorying in pain as human beings, whoever it is that you're telling your story about. Collapse it, get rid of it.
Well, that question got answered well, so I see that it's just about time for the end of the show. But yeah, so basically lower vitality and monkey mind are the same thing, just different aspects of that expression, and they both promote the same. You know, one promotes the other.
Same result.
Okay.
They are literally looking at the head or the tail of the coin. They're exactly identical. Just it's one single object observed from a different perspective, if we think of it in object terms.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Michael.
All right, my friend. Well, you have a blessed one, extending love in your direction, and hope all is well. Well, Miss Jeanie, we're down to the last few seconds, so I'll just say thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings. Bye-bye.